Hey YouTube, it is Match League Premiere and another week of Single Typing Cup. I've done a ton of Single Typing Cup teams, and the video this afternoon is another Single Typing Cup team. So I'm not going to go over that, but I am going to go over Match League Premiere because there is one change that is big that I think is going to shift the meta a lot, how people deal with it. So if you look at the rankings here, outside of Haxorus jumping to number 3, the rankings are the same as they have been in the past. Dragonite just overpowered with the Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw at number 1. You have Florges I'm going to talk about Florges more in a second. Florges pretty high because it's a great answer to all the dragons. There's a lot of it, and now there's even another one in Haxorus. Haxorus, a dragon that now can deal with all the steals because Extra Gel was one of the main ones before. So you can go like double dragon and draw out like a steal with Haxorus, and you'd be okay as a counter user. Snorlax can be one of the best safe swaps, just spammy and bulky. Gyarados I still think is one of the best Pokemon. Again, being able to do Dragon Breath to these dragons without taking super effective from Dragon or Fairy is super strong. Then we go into like Garchomp again. Garchomp with the Mud Shot, Earth Power can deal with this and Outrage, so it can deal with the steals and it can deal with the dragons. Metagross as your main Fairy answer. Ursaluna is kind of like the one-off one, but it's also weak to counter, so it's kind of, I don't know how it's going to perform. Mamoswine I think is going to be, I'm going to give it a little bump this season because even though it's weak to fighting, it also does super effective against the dragon there. I shows here Goldango. I've now I waited way too late for this. I'm now just trying to start getting coins and stuff like this. Again, as a steal, you're going to get lit up by anything that has ground on it. But it looks like it's got some decent wins here. So that's something, I don't have it, so it's tough to speak to it. And Shadow Swampert just mostly as a steal answer. There's a lot of problems here with like flyer, like dragons in general, plus yeah, just dragons in general is the main one. So I'll go over 4 teams, but this is what I think is going to happen. I think for the most part, the meta is still going to be dominated by your main 10 Pokemon. I said even last season, there was like 10 Pokemon which dominated. The 10 Pokemon were like Dragonite, Florges, Snorlax, Gyarados, Garchomp, Metagross, Excadrill, Mamoswine once in a while. Okay, like 10 Pokemon. Like that was it. That was your main meta was there. What I think is going to happen is Haxorus will be on a lot of teams because it is such a strong answer now with breaking swipes. Being able to, as a counter user, dominate first everything that's weak to steal. I mean, a steal being weak to counter. The main one being Excadrill is your main answer there. And Waterfall Gyarados if you want to run Waterfall Gyarados. But otherwise, just like the spamminess of the breaking swipes will put it in play. The problem is right here. It's going to have 2 problems. Against other dragons that are running dragon type fast moves, you're just going to get lit up against, and fairies. And what I think we're going to see is an increase in fairies, specifically Florges. Florges is number 2 on this list, and even though Dragon's Knight's number 1 just because it's so overpowered, if I had a Florges right now, I'd run it on almost every single one of my teams. I just think that it is so good. Like, your main problem is going to be steal, but even the steal 232, like, it's a bad loss. But you can just kind of spam your charge moves and still chip a ton. So there's a lot of steal answers. But outside of the steal answers, my goodness, you're beating the water, you're beating ice, you're beating dragons with ease, you're beating counter users with ease, you're beating like everything, right? So I think that it will be one of the best. Or Snorlax, yeah, Snorlax is close as a safe swap, right? So I think in general you're going to see a lot more Florges and fairies. I also think you're probably going to see more Snorlax as safe swaps. I just think, let's just do non-shadow because I think most people probably don't have the Hundo shadow. I think the non-shadow, just given its safety here, as you can see, like anything that has like a counter, so counter user Haxorus, superpower on Dragonite is going to be tough. But outside that, you're just generally safe, bulky, able to absorb a lot of damage. You're good against almost every single thing, right? So that's just kind of like your middle distribution here. And then you can figure out what to do. So I do think it's going to be a lot of you're gonna see a few people try Haxorus because Dragonite Haxorus, every single person has those. So I don't even have a team on it now, but I can just tell you, I would not be surprised if you see like a Metagross Haxorus Dragonite team, right? ABB try and draw out a fairy there, or you can run a balanced team, Metagross Haxorus with like a Snorlax in the middle. Like that is how I would run a balanced team with Haxorus if I was trying to run it. But let's look at 4 other teams and why I'm almost a bit nervous. So the first one is this team I hit Legend to 2 seasons ago and dominated last season. It's got 2 things. It's got strengths here in the fact that if people are running Haxorus a lot, I basically have 2, almost 3 answers for Haxorus, right? Double Dragon Breath user and a Bullet Punch. So you're just going to do well against Haxorus if you see it. The problem with this team was the main struggle with Dragonite did great against everything except for a Fairy lead. Because you couldn't, Gyarados did great with everything except for a Fairy lead. Because you couldn't leave to Metagross because they definitely have an answer for the Metagross if they're leading a Fairy. And if they get out of that, you're left with double Dragon Breath users. So you kind of had to stay in with Gyarados and then come in with Metagross after you sort of lose the lead. Which makes it tricky if you're seeing a lot more Fairies. So one option to run this team is just to go Waterfall Gyarados. It's an option you can then really stay in the matchup with. With Fairies. It will make you worse against dragons. So that is the trade-off of how I would modify. But this team has dominated for me over the seasons. I still may run it again depending what you're seeing in your range, but I expect the uptick in Fairies. This is another team I ran. So it was an ABB style. It was like a modified Dragonite double steel lineup. So Garchomp on the lead. I think Garchomp with Earth Power Outrage, again, covers your steels and covers your dragons very well. And then Extra was one of the best safe swaps. I'm now worried a bit with, it's such a great answer to Florges. So if people are running like Florges and Haxorus, you can do okay, but you're now going to get lit up by Haxorus. Mamoswine is one that I think is going to see an uptick too, given that there's all these dragons, which you can hit for super effective with the ice, and then there's all these steels that are going to come in to deal with the fairies, and you do well with the steels with the high horsepower, plus you can hit like fairies and Snorlax and everything for neutral with Powder Snow Avalanche. So I think Mamoswine's probably going to be one that you're going to see an uptick of more on teams. So speaking about fairies, there's a couple here. This one's I think Home Slice and the next one's Yonkus, about how to deal the fairy team. So again, very balanced team. Florges lead, Snorlax safe swap. This is actually an ABB style team. So Snorlax and Excadrill. So this is ABB style. You have to try and draw out a fighter. So you'd safe swap. Both are good safe swaps, quite honestly. So you can safe swap I saw the word lick. Snorlax or Excadrill to draw out your Haxorus at this point. Lick and Body Slam spam will do well against Haxorus. You're just going to get, again, the breaking swipes and counters going to add up very quickly on you. But then you punish with Florges, and then your Excadrill will roam free. So ABB style team, that would work. If you want a more balanced team, Yonkins just put this out a couple weeks ago when Haxorus came out. So it is a balanced team with Haxorus. So you have Fairy lead, weak to like steals, right? Metagross and Excadrill and stuff like that. Snorlax as your safe swap, and then Haxorus now as a counter user in the back will deal with that. So it's a very safe team. Haxorus weak to Fairy. Your front two will kind of deal with Fairy. Haxorus weak to other dragons, right? The Dragon Breath damage. So your Charm Fairy will deal with that, and then Snorlax as a safe swap. So I think that is basically going to be the meta in a nutshell. Let's see, I still have this open. Yes. I truly think that it will be 10 Pokemon if you're playing this meta. Dragonite, Florges, or I'll say Florges as the main one because it's the best one, but people could use... we did have the community day for Togekiss, so that can be up there. Togekiss, any other fairy. So Dragonite, Haxorus, Florges are another fairy. Snorlax is safe swap. Gyarados is still be strong. Garchomp, Metagross, Mamoswine, Excadrill. Some will have Goldango and use that. but that's basically it. Golisopod is now interesting. So there's two Pokemon in here that I have not looked at yet. Golisopod and Sneasler. Both you could now have pretty good access to. So Golisopod, pretty even distribution. Weak against Dark. I don't expect to see a lot of Darks. I expect to see some Dragonites and Snorlaxes. Haxorus. So like a lot of your losses are against the main sort of meta here. Where are your wins? Fairies, Metagross, Excadrill, Mamoswine. Interesting. So this has got quite, because you got the Liquidation, right? Right. So Shadow Claw is just such a good charge move. Liquidation is a good hard hitting move. Your main problem is going to be Dragon, right? Because Dragon will resist the water. So that's why your main losses are going to be to Dragons here. But I could see this, especially with this distribution, 15, 12, 1. With that distribution, not a ton of hard losses. I can definitely see Golisopod being on a few more teams. So I'm going to add that as a Pokemon to watch because I really think that you'll see more of that. Sneasler is one where you're half poison. So that will neutralize the Fairy. Claw, Close Combat, and X-Scissor. Yeah, a little rougher. Ursaluna is whatever. But then, yeah, your tough losses against the Fairies, Dragonite, Gyarados, Snorlax, Haxorus. So these are a lot of main losses here. Your wins are going to be Mamoswine. Anything Steel, being able to like close combat. I think this is a little trickier to run. So I don't think you'll see a lot of Sneaslers. I think you'll see more Golisopods. So I do have a Hundo Golisopod, but I don't think I have the XLs for it. So I'd add that as another Pokemon you'll see. But really, it's going to be very, very, very limited meta. So yeah, that is it. If you plan to play, that is what you need to know. If you don't plan to play, there are plenty of videos last week. 5 already. No, 5 just this week. Like 7 maybe. 7 or so teams for Single Typing Cup. I've got like 4 more already done that are going to go up over the next week. So plenty of options there. Let me know in the comments below if you are going to play this. I'll maybe do like a team or two, but I feel like most people will still play Single Typing Cup just because of the limited nature of Master League. Although Single Typing Cup is getting limited too right now, but I think this is going to be really, really limited as it usually is. Anyways, that is it. Let me know in the comments below if you're playing this league and what you are playing, and I will see you guys in the next one.